much happened before today. Today's a brand new day. It's a brand new season.
You're listening to Arkansas Preps Weekly on Natural State Sports, your top source for the biggest news in high school sports across Arkansas.
Here we go. Here we go.
What's up, everybody? Thanks for joining us on episode 7 of Arkansas Preps Weekly. My name is Kyle Sutherland, alongside the baseball guru, Mr. Kevin Bohannon himself. We're on a little bit of a tight schedule, so I won't go into a lot of detail, but just like some of the softball and baseball teams have had a rough week coming into this week, hopefully it won't continue. It's been a little bit tough for us getting going this week, but we're going to be all right. I think that we're going to at least finally get this thing rolling here, but if it does seem like this show's a little bit rushed, that is kind of because it is, because we're just at that point. But want to remind you, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe. If you're listening on any of the audio versions, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, make sure you subscribe there. Leave us a review as well. Before we get started, I want to talk to you guys about our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, because a properly graded infield is not only important for player safety, but also the field's health. No company in the state can match the exceptional service and dedication like our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas in Sherwood. From infield renovation, lip removal and edging, mound rehab, laser leveling, and much more, Jeremy Rice and his crew have you covered. Call Jeremy at 501-416-1218. That's 501-416-1218 today for your free evaluation and consultation, and check them out on Facebook or see what they have to offer by searching Athletic Field Service of Arkansas online. Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, we got the dirt on your infield. Well, Kevin, we'll start it in Class 6A as we always do. I know the big one that we talked about last week was Rogers and Rogers Heritage, not only for that 1-2 spot in the Super 7 rankings, but the 1-2 seeds in the 6A West. So Rogers, they came out on top in that matchup. They swept it 2-1 and then 9-8, so 2 one-run games. But we do know, at least for now, who will be the number 1 seed. Well, that's also assuming, I guess, that they take care of business against Southside this week. We expect that to happen, so it's looking like the Mounties are going to be the top seed.
Yeah, so Heritage will have Northside and Rogers play Southside one game. So, yeah,
that's right.
You know, those two should be your top 2 seeds out of the 6A West. Good games. You know, it's kind of what we expected that first night. Jake Taylor on the mound, sophomore for Rogers. It was an all-state pitcher last year for them, and, you know, he did his job. Those two are going to see each other again. It wouldn't surprise me if they play each other in the finals. But, you know, the rest of the West is Fayetteville, Harbor, Bentonville, and Bentonville West. Just depends on, you know, the order. And we talked about it last week. We know the 6. We just don't know the 3 through 6. We know who's going to be 1 and 2. So, and then going to the Central, Bryant has the magic numbers 1 right now. They beat Conway at least once this week. They're going to win the Central in Garrett Bach's first year. So Conway's going they're going to be the 2, Cabot the 3, Catholic 4, Jonesboro 5, and then most likely Little Rock Central 6.
And we'll go ahead and head down to 5A. Big news there. Maumelle and Little Rock Central, they're going to square off for the
Christian.
Central Conference.
Little Rock Christian.
Little Rock Christian. Been a long day. Little Rock Christian going to square off for the Central Conference. That will be heard on Natural State Sports YouTube page. Of course, yourself and Steve Henson will be on the call. Yep. But Maumelle, think about it. I know last year was last year, but think about all that outside of that Valley View game, all that Little Rock Christian has done this year. Last season, and that doubleheader, the second game was only a 1-run game. So you think about the pitching, especially that Maumelle has. Talked about that for years, but you never know what could happen, especially in a game of this magnitude right before the state tournament.
That's exactly right, and it will be seen on Natural State Sports YouTube page as well, so you can listen or you can see. We're looking forward to doing a broadcast. That's our first Arkansas Preps Weekly Game of the Week, pretty much Game of the Year at this point, because that's the only one we're going to do for this season, but we're excited about what we got coming in the future. Yeah, Kyle, the first game was a run rule last year. Jackson Kircher had a couple triples in that game. Reese Taraney shut down Maumelle, and Little Rock Christian got on Tag Andrews early in the game. I expect it to flip flop this year. So the first game will be close, and for our listeners, viewers who plan on watching the game will start at 5 o'clock. I know it's scheduled for 4:30, but it will start at 5 o'clock. So it'll be Ty Andrews and probably Jackson Kircher or Tate Collins. Coach Eller, haven't talked to him yet about who's gonna throw game one. So they at least need to get one, and then you're looking at a situation if they split where you're looking at how many runs did so and so beat A team B by. So that'll determine the 1 and 2 seed. Now, the 1 seed will get to face Batesville in the first round of the state playoffs, and they'll get to face Mark Brissy. That's a tough matchup. We see 4-over-1s every year. It's as common as a 12 upsetting a 5 in the NCAA March Madness. So get ready for it. It's likely to happen again this year. It almost happened a couple of times last year. Lakeside took Little Rock Christian down to the wire, and Little Rock Christian had to come back. So I think it'll be a close series. Peyton Lee has not thrown as well as he did earlier in the season. He started out really well. 2025 Razorback commit. He needs to have his A game tomorrow night if Maumelle wants a chance to win this conference. And I don't have Maumelle ranked right now. They're on the outside looking in. They took care of business last week, but they lost to Sylvan Hills 10-0. But they just as well can be in the semifinals for a shot having to play for a state championship here come next week. I mean, that's just how they are with this time of the year. They're going to be, a top 2 seed. It just all depends on, how they want to play moving forward and how the offense can put runs on the board.
Then the South, Lake Hamilton, they've got that. Have they already clinched that? Because I know they're 2 games ahead, so it's looking like they'll possibly be the favorite. And then at the number 1 seed, Benton, right behind them. Obviously, Valley View in the East. We just talked about the Central, so that leaves the West. And we talked a good bit about that last week. Now, Mountain Home and was it Van Buren? They are going to face off in a doubleheader, and the winner goes to the state tournament. The loser goes home.
So I've got – let me double-check. Russellville plays Van Buren this week. And
it's Van Buren and Mountain Home that are in the Van Buren and Mountain Home that are going for that 4 seed. That's what I had meant.
Right.
Yeah.
So Alma kind of threw a kink in things last week when they beat Greenwood in the second part of their doubleheader. So, yeah, Russ, you got the top 4 teams playing each other. You got 1 and 4 and 2 and 3. So there's a lot to be worked out. Russellville's sitting on top right now. If they get a win, they're at least guaranteed a 2 seed, the way my calculations work. So Van Buren, they need to win at least a game. So the Pointers are really good. They're really young. Weston Wilcox is a good 2026, but Greenwood and Greenbrier, they fought last year, split. Greenwood needs to win. They need to win for their confidence right now more than anything else because they're 1 and 3 over their last 4 games in conference play. And that's to Alma and Mountain Home. That's not counting – and only one of the teams possibly could make the state tournament. So moving forward this week, that's a big week for them. But been really impressed by Russellville, what they've done. Tristan Newberry, Russ Martin has thrown better of late. Peyton Kaufman, he's had 5 or 6 home runs on the year. Cade Palmer is a Little Rock commit for the 2025 class. So, yeah, Russellville, they're one of those teams on the rise right now.
Then down in Class 4A, this is where we begin our talks of regionals. Now, there wasn't – and we didn't expect in districts on softball or baseball that there was going to be a whole lot of surprises. Didn't have that. But, man, anytime you get to regionals, that's not only do we really start to see the pretenders and separate those from the contenders, but that's when you see, as you mentioned a second ago, in the state tournament, you get to the 4 over the 1. That happens a lot in state tournaments and regionals. So we'll just go ahead and start here. Now, there's still only the East, West, or the East, North, and South in Class 4A. You've only got those 3 regionals here. But just looking at it as far as the first 3 here that we'll talk about, the first 3 regionals that we'll talk about in 4A, what's just kind of the overlook that you have for those? Do you see maybe a team in there that could sneak up? We'll start with the East here. Is there one in there that, you maybe
East,
just see?
Yeah. Southside, the Southerners, they're playing right now. They beat Brooklyn last week to win the district tournament and get the 1 seed. That puts Brooklyn against Pulaski Academy. Pulaski Academy is dangerous right now because they have Kel Busby back. Now, how much will Busby throw against Brooklyn? Don't know. Maybe 60, 70 pitches. But that may be just enough that they need to get to the second round. The 1 seeds in this region have basically the equivalent of a cakewalk. Lona has Jonesboro who finished 6th in that 3-4 conference. They upset Wynn last week to punch their ticket to regionals. So they should be okay. And Southside has Clinton. Clinton's not very good. So outside the Southerners under Coach Winter, I think they'll be okay getting to that. So, let's go to the North. The North Regional is at Morrilton. And the one from the 4 is going to be the Morrilton Devil Dogs. They'll play Pea Ridge, who was, right all season long in the 1-4A. The second place team is going to be Mena out of the 4-4A. They're going to play Prairie Grove. That should be a really good matchup. And then Shiloh Christian is the one. They haven't determined who the 3 and the 4 are going to be from the 4A yet. They're going to have to seed it out. They don't want to go into Monday playing like some softball teams are doing with some of their district tournaments. So, Farmington, see them playing really good ball. To Shiloh Christian. It just Shiloh's the hot team right now, so I can see a Shiloh Morrilton regional final. And I don't think you're going to see a complete domination by the 1-4A like it's been in the past. They can still win 3 of the games. They can still win 4 of the games, but I just don't expect it. Morrilton is just too good this year under Coach Mike Lee. I really like the way those guys are playing right now, so expect Shiloh Christian to come out of that. Going down to the South, the one out of the 8-4A, they've still got some things to figure out. 7. This is the way it ended up breaking out. Nashville's the 1, Magnolia's the 2, DeQueen's the 3, and Arkadelphia's the 4. And you're probably asking, where's Ashdown? Ashdown didn't make it. Arkadelphia beat Camden Fairview last week, 4-3. That knocks Ashdown out, who was the runner-up last year for the 4A state title. So Warren, Monticello, I know Hamburg was in the mix. They're still there, and we'll get those regional matchups for the South. Man, the South is down overall, Kyle, this year, baseball-wise. And if you're looking at teams, no team from the 8-4A has been ranked this year. Now, 3 of the 4 teams from the 7-4A have been ranked, but they haven't been ranked higher than 6th. So all the talent still lies Little Rock and northward in terms of, who has the potential to win a state title in Class 4A.
I was going to point that out because last year I think the Region 8 team that we talked about most, of course, was Stuttgart. And this year, 4A7 has been as wild as it could be.
They got beat.
I mean, yeah. And 4A7 was as wild as it could be. Like you said, we didn't talk a ton about, I think we mentioned CrossFit a few times here and there, but the 4A7, it's just kind of been, okay, what wackiness has gone on? We had a team ranked a little bit high, and then a team that maybe shouldn't have beat them on paper did. Do you see some of the craziness? Well, I mean, yes, there's still going to be craziness in this region, but to the point that we're maybe, hey, one of these 4A8 teams that we didn't expect, is this maybe one of those as far as out of all 3 regions that you could maybe see some surprises?
Yeah, so like you said, CrossFit, they're 9-3. They still got to finish up this week, or they got to finish up a couple of things seating wise. But you got CrossFit, Warren, Hamburg, and Marcelo. Now, Hamburg has Brent Holland, UCA committal now, so him up against Magnolia will be a really good matchup. CrossFit, I think, will take care of business against Arkadelphia. The Warren DeQueen game, Kyle, you talk about 2 teams that really haven't had much baseball tradition. And those 2, one of those teams is going to be in the state tournament. They're going to be one of the 12 teams that make it to a state tournament. Now, this year, Kyle, every year it rotates between the East, the North, and the South in terms of which second place team gets a bye, the all-important bye to the quarterfinals. South. The least talented region, in my opinion, will put a team in the second round no matter what. So that's crucial in terms of how you can get to the state tournament. Just kind of looking ahead of, what we might see. If the one from the The East will probably be Lone Oak, and they're matched up against the two from the South. So Lone Oak, the winner of the East, in my opinion, has a pretty good draw. That they could be facing another regional partner down there because at the bottom of the bracket, the second team plays from the East plays the third team from the North. So I like the way it sets up for the winner of the East Regional this week.
And down in Class 3A, I'll tell you, well, before we go to Class 3A, I want to remind you guys about our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas. When we get down to the smaller classifications, a properly graded infield is not only important for player safety, but for the field's health. No company in the state can match the exceptional service and dedication like our friends at Athletic Field Service of Arkansas in Sherwood. From infield renovation, lip removal and edging, mound rehab, laser leveling, and much more, Jeremy Rice and his crew have you covered. Call Jeremy at 501-416-1218. That's 501-416-1218 today for your free evaluation and consultation. And check them out on Facebook to see what they have to offer. Also, by searching online, Athletic Field Service of Arkansas. Athletic Field Service of Arkansas, we got the dirt on your infield. So down in Class 3A, I'm just going to say it right now, Kevin. I think you look right there, what is it, that 3A3 regional that is going to be in Pangburn. Possible number 1 versus number 2 matchup with Harding Academy, Central Arkansas Christian. That's what most people expect, of course. That's one of the first ones. And also, out of the 3A4, will this be the year that Harmony Grove OC makes it out of regionals?
Yeah, and that's what really good, everybody. At Camden, Harmony Grove / Harmony Grove, Washita County. So starting in that 3A regional, CAC is going to be the 1 out of the 5. They're going to face Bald Knob in the first round. They'll take care of business there. Rosebud will take on Mayflower. Harding Academy will take on Dover. That's a interesting matchup. Dover had a good start to the year, kind of floundered at the end. See, beat them 10-0 in the semifinals. So Perryville and Pangburn, that's an interesting matchup. I think Cade Rowland from Pangburn, he has the ability to beat Perryville in that first round matchup. So but it's at the end of the day, it's still two teams: Harding Academy, Central Arkansas Christian. That I expected. The matchups in that 4-3A. So I call them by region. So yeah. It's 4-3A, but it's the South. It's Conference 7 versus Conference 8. So here are our matchups. Harmony Grove, Washita County will face Glen Rose. HGOC should win that game, but as we know, crazier things have happened the last 2 years. But they're playing their best baseball right now. Caleb Johnson hit a 6th home run in the championship game of the district tournament to give those guys a win. And so I think they're playing really good baseball right now. Mason Morgan, really good on the mound. So General will play Smackover. That's going to be a tough first-round matchup. Smackover's been pretty consistent this year. Drew Central, who beat Harmony Grove, Washita County, 1-0 earlier in the year, which got Drew Central kind of on our map. But Drew Central hasn't played much baseball this year. They've played their conference games, and that's about it. They're playing Harmony Grove the first round. That could be an upset, but I think the Cardinals, who were the last team not named Harding Academy to win a 3A state title back in 2019, and then DeWitt Bismarck, interesting matchup. DeWitt, started out the year 8-0. Now they're kind of going backwards. That'll be a good matchup. It's going to be one up in Valley Springs. It's going to be played at Harrison Parks and Recreation. Speaking of Valley Springs, Valley Springs did not finish in the top 4 in their conference. Who did they upset? They upset Flippin to get to the regionals. So now they played the finals against Elkin, finished second. So that sets up some interesting matchups. You got Boonville and Lincoln. Boonville, of course, some theatrics in their district tournament. Rylan Ray hit a walk-off home run in the semifinals to get them to the finals. Dax golfed through a complete game, and then Boonville took care of business against Valley Springs. That district tournament. Valley Springs plays Paris. Paris played pretty well. They were the second place team in the 4 this week, in the 4 conference 4-3A. Too many numbers this morning. Elkins and Hackett and Charleston and Flippin. I still think this is Yeah, Boonville Elkins is doing really well right now. Let's go to Rivercrest, Region 2. That's the northeast part of the state. Rivercrest and Cave City. Cave City was the 3-8 throughout the season. They finished 4th, so that's going to be a tougher matchup for Rivercrest, who beat Gosnell 3-0 in the district tournament final. That was a big win for Rivercrest, giving them some confidence moving forward. Melbourne and Harrisburg is a good matchup. Wouldn't surprise me if Harrisburg wins that one. Walnut Ridge should take care of Manila, and then Gosnell should roll over Newport. So it wouldn't be surprised me if the 3A goes 3-1 in that first round.
And then down in Class 2A, one that stuck out immediately. I know when we were talking about on Monday morning before we recorded, I'd asked you, or at least one of the games that we had referenced was the 2A3 district tournament between Riverside and Rector. And, man, those two teams have had some really good showdowns, and that's probably one that I think most are looking at off the bat, especially if you're in the Northeast region. It's going to be the Northeast Regional, basically, as you said, it's the 2A North, but still, a lot of the Northeast teams. That's in Buffalo Island Central. And then, of course, you think about that there could be a rematch between Rector and Riverside. What would that be, the fourth time this year that they have played if they do meet in that, fourth in the regional final?
Yeah, the championship round. So, McCrory and Bay, of course, upset Carlisle last year to go to the state tournament. So, McCrory, keep your head on a swivel. They do have the arms to do it. Rector and Desark has shown the ability to upset some teams this year. They beat Palestine Wheatley. So it's a good matchup for Rector in the first round. Riverside and Carlisle. Carlisle has been an enigma. They have talent. Holden Jones, Dalton Ward, Jonathan Pickard. They just haven't really put it all together. So I do think Riverside wins, but it's a tough matchup. 6 of these teams have been ranked at one point this year. 5 of them, excuse me. The only ones that haven't are Bay, Desark, and Cross County. So 5 of these teams have at least been ranked at some point this year in the 2A North. Palestine Wheatley plays Cross County. Cross County was one of those teams we looked at earlier in the year. Then, Riverside was taking care of business, so was Rector. And Cross County just really, kind of came in to finish 3rd and beat Bay in that consolation game to get the 3 seed. Let's go to the 2A Central region. This was the region that last year in terms of, Bigelow didn't make it, but I think Bigelow's going to make it this year. They're on a roll right now. I think they've won 15 straight. 15-1 on the year. They get Izzard County in the first round. So I think they're okay. They're going to take their business. They're going to play the winner of this will be a low-scoring pitcher. Aiden Jones or Kyle Province will probably throw for Cedar Ridge. Episcopal will Trinity University commit down in Trinity, Texas. Of course, last year Episcopal made it to the semifinals. Just ran out of gas against Palestine Wheatley. The top part of the bracket, Mountain Pine, Sloan Hendricks in the 2-3 matchup, and then Southside and Poen. Southside should roll through that top part of the bracket. So looking at Southside and Bigelow once again in the central region. Let's go down to the south, Kyle. 2A South at Parker's Chapel. Murfreesboro, they're on our outside looking in this week. They're 15-5 on the year. They went undefeated. Rising. Ouachita, the Warriors, the Oregon Duck, green and gold. They play Spring Hill. Spring Hill, of course, made it to the 2018 2A state finals where they lost to Parker's Chapel. Woodlawn and Dirks. Dirks has upset some folks in the past few years. I think they beat Woodlawn a couple years ago. So Woodlawn's 28-1 right now. They lead the state in wins. Tate Hall's had a good year. I don't expect. And then matchup of the week, Kyle. These two teams know each other very well. Horatio and Parker's Chapel. That should be one heck of a matchup in the first round. Of course, Woodlawn has history with all 3 of the teams on their side of the bracket on the bottom side. That's a stacked bottom half of the bracket right there. You got Woodlawn, Dirks, Horatio, and Parker's Chapel. We do think Woodlawn will get to the regional final and win that one. That would put them at 31-1 here. Let's go to Lavaca, the 2A West. Greenland faces Hector in the first round. Lavaca faces Cotter. Cotter tied for the regular season title got upset by Lifeway Christian in the district tournament. So Cotter dropped a little bit. So Cotter has the potential to beat Lavaca in the first round. That would put them in a rematch with Hector in the semifinals. Marshall got in. Man, what a run for those guys. They weren't expected to get in. Now they got into the regional tournament. They played Mansfield, who won the 4-2A. And then the bottom matchup in the bracket on the bottom half, Lifeway Christian faces Mountainburg. Lifeway Christian, of course, up there in the northwest corner of Fayetteville, Springdale area. Should be a good matchup. And Kyle, I still think the talent, though, as opposite is of 3A, all the best baseball being played right now. Of course, you got Riverside and Rector up in the northeast, and then the southern part of the state.
And last but not least, down in Class 1A, we talk a lot, Jared and I do, on the softball side about the madness of the 1A2 conference at the top especially. And that region between regions 2 and 3 is really interesting because obviously you've got Viola and Norfolk that have kind of beat up. A lot of these teams have kind of beat up on each other, especially the region 2 teams, it really seems like. So I really like that one. And then, of course, you obviously got to go down to, as your weekly Taylor report, Mount Ida and them being in the same region. Of course, Mount Ida was throttled by Taylor, as many 1A teams have been throttled by in the last few years, but that was in the regional championship last year that happened, and then on into the state finals. So we'll likely get more of Mount Ida and Taylor in that South Regional, the 1A4. And like I said, I expect that 1A2 regional between regions 2 and 3 to be really competitive.
That's right. So yeah, let's start back at region 2. Norfolk got the district championship. That was a great run by the Party Crashers. They've kind of come to life. They lost to Westside and Viola all year long by double digits. They weren't close games. They beat both of those teams in the district tournament. They beat Viola in the semifinals, then upset Westside Greers Ferry in the championship. So they get to play Crowley's Ridge Academy in the first round. I think the Party Crashers will win that one. Armorel and Viola. That's going to be a really good matchup right there. So, Armorel, the Tigers, of course, tied Hillcrest for the conference title in the regular season. Hillcrest, the Screaming Eagles, beat them in the championship of the district tournament. So, Armorel gets the 2 seed out of the conference 3. Hillcrest and Concord, that'll be a really good matchup. Concord, of course, upset Viola earlier in the season. They get the 4 seed out of that tough 2-1A. So they'll face the Screaming Eagles from Hillcrest. And then the last matchup, Westside faces Mark Tree. Westside, of course, they had been number 2 just about all season long in our Super 7 poll. They get to face a Mark Tree team. I think Westside takes care of business there. It wouldn't surprise me if all 4 teams from the 2-1A win this week, because Concord has shown that they can beat just about anybody. And then depth takes place from there. So, but Armorel and Hillcrest are going to be tough. They're the top 2 teams out of the 3-1A. Let's go to Region 1. That's going to be Omaha at Harrison Parks and Recreation. We haven't talked a lot about these teams this year, Kyle, because honestly, I mean, they don't play a lot of baseball. They play a lot of basketball. Scranton has been a thing we've talked about a little bit. The Rockets, they'll face Alpena. And then Omaha faces Ozark Catholic, Jasper and Mulberry, and then County Line and Lead Hill. Okay, let's go to Region 3. It's going to be at Wonderview. Got some teams in here that have been in our Super 7 this year. St. Joe's, Augusta, and Room 1. They should take care of business there. Bradford and Guy Perkins. That's who St. Joe's will play the winner of, assuming they get past of Augusta. And then the bottom half of the bracket, Midland and Wonderview. Midland, I think they're 20-12 on the year. They've been pretty good out of that 5-1A. And then Nemo Vista plays Clarendon. So would not surprise me, Kyle, if you get to see Nemo Vista and St. Joe's for about the 4th time this year. Just when things have worked out with them. So going down to Region 4, which is South Arkansas, the 7 versus the 8, like we talked about. Taylor's going to face Creighton. Should win that game pretty handily. The over-under on points on run score that game may be 15. Mineral Springs and Bradley, and then Mount Ida faces Hampton and Bearden and Nevada in the last matchup of the bottom half of the bracket. So as you mentioned, we should see a Taylor and Mount Ida regional final once again.
Well, first off, I want to thank everybody and Kevin for the patience of this episode. Basically, we weren't sure it was going to happen when it did, because I literally thought that every bit of my equipment shorted out. I think I need a computer update, kind of some just things that I've pondered in my head. But yeah, just like all of the stuff that went on with softball and baseball and the delays and some of the district tournaments going into this week for softball, we had some delays ourselves, but we ended up getting through it. But I do want to remind everybody, if you are watching on YouTube, if you haven't already, subscribe, and also subscribe on the audio versions as well, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and leave us a review. Please don't base us just off this episode, I beg you. But, Kevin, it's almost time. I know we got to get out of here soon. We're at Monday. We're tight schedule, but it is coming down to the wire. Things have gone great throughout the first 3 weeks of us being on Natural State Sports platform. And we're just going to continue the fun on into the final week of the season and the state finals here in a bit, and then get in some stuff in the summer.
Yeah, and looking forward to Luke Matheson from ArkansasVarsity.com is going to be working with us. Of course, you and I have known Luke for a long time. He's had a big presence. I know he's done the Red Wolf Report for Arkansas State. A lot of good relationships in the southern part of the state where we don't really have a big presence right now. But yeah, we're looking forward to working with Luke. I've got a lot of good state tournament stuff coming up. Of course, we'll have state tournament previews on Natural State Sports. These are our last set of rankings that will come out until after the state finals. So next week we'll have state championship previews. You and I, fortunately, will get to call some state tournaments. You and Saul, myself in baseball for PBS. Looking forward to that. So a lot of good stuff to talk about as we get into state tournament time. Just got to get through the weather. Weather's always a factor this time of the year. We saw it last year in Class 4A, which we're supposed to start at Lone Oak, ended up at Maumelle Charter, back at Lone Oak. Triple A's always done a good job of getting games in, even if it's 10 o'clock at night. They're going to get them in. If they have to finish one game, start one game one day and finish it the next, they're going to do what they can, because you got to factor in graduations, all kinds of senior stuff this time of the year. But this time next week, hopefully we will have all of our participants for all 5 or all 6 of the state tournaments.
Yeah, that's right. We're hoping and praying for that, because as I mentioned, especially with softball, we've had some bleed in to this week. And I remember 2 years ago, we had to play some regional finals on Monday. So hopefully we don't get to that point and we can finish it up. But as Kevin said, we got all kinds of things going on. NaturalStateSports.com is where you can check out the content. Of course, his rankings this week are released for baseball. Softball will be released Tuesday morning, since we have a couple of district tournaments to get finished up Monday. But that will do it for this week. We will catch you next week. For Kevin Bohannon and all of us here, my name is Kyle Sutherland. We will catch you next week.